Well, I thought I would feed my bees with a Hive top feeder, all 4 hives, and gave them about 2 gallons of 2-to-1 sugar to water syrup 2 days ago. It has turned out to be an absolute disaster. At this point, I think it's a horrible idea after the fall nectar flow to add syrup to your bees if there's any other colonies in the area. You can see all the robbers still going at it. And I've got a robber screen on there, Vicks Vapor Rub on the front. It's not as bad as it was. You can see them flying around trying to figure out where the entrance is. I did put a robbing screen in the front. I don't know if it's helped or not. I don't know. I finally decided that the best way to deal with this was to remove the feeders. Just take them off. And I've stuffed straw down in the wells. And I don't know if these bees ever find their way back home. But I figured the best way to handle this is to open feed away from the hives, and it will draw these out for an easier feast. If I have any colonies that go through winter now, I guess I'll be blessed and mark it up to learning that this area that I live in has enough wild colonies that this is just not going to work to feed them in the hives. I mean, I've never once saw that this would be a problem, that if you're going to feed them, a boardman feeder on the front could create robbing issues because they could smell it. But obviously, any kind of feeding is going to create problems. Nice thing about the design of those feeders is the bees, if they go in through the top to steal syrup, they can't get to the bees on the inside and do them harm. But I've lost a colony before due to robbing. They killed the queen, and thus in the fall there's no drones, and a new queen can't mate to have new workers. Therefore, you lose your colony completely. So, my suggestion, if you've got to feed your bees because they don't have enough sugar, feed them away from your hives. Don't feed them in your hives, feed them away. And I have had success before with giving them fondant inside the hive, and that's going to be the only thing I do from now on. I'll put a 1-inch feeder shim on the top below the inner cover, and I will feed them fondant from now on. I will not do this again. This has been a disaster. I bought those hives 5 for about $60 from one of the suppliers, and name brand supplier, and it was almost immediate. When I put the syrup in there on the first one, immediately it drew in robbing. And this is the 3rd day. Thank God it rained all day yesterday, so it minimized any robbing that could have happened yesterday. But it's not stopping. At least with this front screen robbing preventer, it seems to be helping. There doesn't seem to be fighting by the entrance hole on top. So in theory, the bees that know where it is belong to the hive, and the ones that are clustering on the front don't belong, which may or may not be true. I mean, there's one that has pollen on her legs, and she's trying to figure out how to get in. So if the bees belong, they don't fight with each other. But if they don't belong, then what you end up with is bees on the ground getting drug off by ants. I really don't see any wax underneath, but you do occasionally see bees fighting and pulling on each other's wings, and it's just part of it. I think from now on, though, I will avoid sugar in the hive. I guess when I poured from the bucket into the feeder up top, it just put too much of the scent of free sugar into the air and just drew them in to start robbing. So, all right, my goal is now is to get them away from the hive. So there's enough bees, I think, that have figured out where this is. If I can get back to my house, which is about a quarter mile down the road, I'll go slow. I'll just take all these bees with me and let them consume the sugar in the back of the truck this afternoon, since this is my lunch break, and hopefully they will get all the syrup they want from here and forget all about the hives over here, because it's more difficult to deal with fighting than it is just coming in and grabbing some syrup and leaving. So hopefully this will be the end of this robbing nonsense. This has been a disaster. Lord willing, the hives will survive. At least the outside one there and the outside one here, my two stronger ones, genetically speaking. This other one right here is also very strong, but the one on the inside over there is, they tend to swarm too much, so I won't cry a river if I lose them. Lord willing, though, I won't lose any of them. I'll just have to feed them fondant, and they've got a pond down there to get water from when it's warm, so I think they'll be fine. And this is I'm finished with feeding at the hives. Okay, I've got this set up now on my feeding station. There's plenty of bees that have figured out, hey, there's food here. So, using the straw and well technique. There's still some bees, unfortunately, that are inside trying to get sugar from inside. If they're still in there because they're confused and they actually belong to the hive, they may be younger ones. You would think only foragers. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do about them if they belong. I'd rather lose 500 bees than to lose a whole hive. So hard to fathom that this would create the disaster that it created for me. This one was pretty much drained, and it was on my cutout hive. Like I said, I still got some bees here that are on the inside of the screen, so they may actually belong to the hive. But if they're foragers, they'll figure it out. I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I never thought that a hive top feeder would do this much damage, but I don't know. To me, it almost seems better to feed away from your hives. If this is going to be the situation that you have to deal with, I would say feed away from your hives, because it's better for your bees to encounter wild bees on a feeding station than it is for the wild bees to invade your hive and kill the queen and kill the whole flipping hive because of it. So what works in one place doesn't work in another place. I have never had any problem with bees robbing out fondant, because it's not exactly an easy food to steal. So I'm just going to stick with fondant from now on. If my bees survive, they survive. If they don't, I'll be working on purchasing some nooks in the spring, and I'll just be out $550 to $600 to replace these 4 hives. But I've got 20 swarm traps up around here. This has been a good year apparently. there is a wild colony somewhere, and maybe when I have plenty of time on my hands, I'll try to catch some bees and find out where they live. You can make a little sugar trap. Basically, you walk up to a flower, you trap the bee in the little box, it has sugar in it, and they take up the syrup, and you let them go and they fly back home, and you kind of watch the direction they go off in, because they're, you know, one track minded. They're taking the food back home. They're not going to hide the fact that they live in, you know, north, south, east, or west direction from you. But look it up. I might be doing that in the spring. Good luck with your winter feeding. God knows I need it. How many bees does it take to drain a couple of gallons of sugar syrup? A lot. And they don't like it when you get too close and you don't smell right. Oh, son of a gun. Alright, I'm getting out of here.